Good evening, and welcome to the virtual design update meeting for the Antoine Drive, US 290 to West Mount Houston project. I'm Ryan Perlman with Houston Public Works, and I'm glad to have you all with us today. This meeting is being recorded and will be available to review on the Houston Public Works YouTube channel. A quick note on housekeeping. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, when we'll have a dedicated question and answer session. As we go through the information tonight, some of your questions might be answered along the way. With that, let's get started. We're honored to have a special guest with us tonight, Vice Mayor Pro Tem and your District A Council Member, Amy Peck. Vice Mayor Pro Tem Peck, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm so excited about this project. I know that it is a long time coming. We've been talking about this project for, oh gosh, probably 10 years now, and we're finally getting to that point where it's moving along and actually happening. So it's very exciting. You know, the concern that I've heard from many people at the very first meeting that we ever had about this project was that residents wanted to keep it at 4 lanes and not widen it to 6. And although this project has taken probably many different directions over the years, I just want to let everyone know that the number of lanes has remained at 4 lanes. So when Mayor Whitmire first came into office, he reviewed the data and had another study conducted to make sure that 4 lanes still made sense. And Councilmember Kamen and I fought very hard to make sure that it remained at 4 lanes. Luckily, Mayor Whitmire agreed and the data agreed. And so, you know, there are some other changes that we're going to hear tonight, but I know that was one of the big concerns that everyone had. If you have questions later on that don't get answered tonight, or you think of something later, please contact my office. We are here to assist. You can contact us at 832-393-3010 or districta@houstontx.gov. Thanks to everyone who worked on this project over the years. I know the community is really excited, and so am I. So again, thanks for participating tonight, and let's hear some more information about what we can expect. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Pro Tem Peck, for taking the time to join us tonight. Up next, we have our Assistant Director for Capital Projects, Tanu Harmith, here to introduce the stakeholders and the project team. Tanu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for you all to join us to receive this important information. And we really appreciate your feedback and input with what we're going to be presenting today. With that, I'm going to introduce the amazing project team and our stakeholders. Our stakeholders on this project are Texas Department of Transportation. We have Harris County Precinct 1, Harris County Engineering Department, Harris County Flood Control District, Metro, Burlington Northern Santa Fe, that is a BNSF Railway, Near Northside Management District, the churches, schools, businesses, community college, and the medical clinics. So our project team of internal to the city, the project manager is Rovaida Ayub, and the managing engineer leading that team is Sherry Kang. And we do have our consultants here who are also the program managers for this particular project. It's Gate Engineering, and we have Muhammad Ali, Derek St. John's, and Karam Kado from Gauge Engineering. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Tanu. So, what to expect in tonight's presentation? First, we will discuss the details of the project. Next, we will catch you up to speed on the design updates since the last public meeting. Afterwards, we will discuss next steps, which will then be followed by our question and answer segment. Here with us tonight to delve into the project details and updates is Principal for Gauge Engineering, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the design team, we're excited to be here and look forward to spending the next 40 minutes or so just going over the presentation and answering Q&A. So Ryan, if you can go to the next slide, I'd appreciate it. All right, so Antoine Drive. So this, last time we met was back in October 2022. That was the last time we had our public meeting. Public Works thought that it would be a good idea to basically do like a check-in with the community, to share the project, where we're at, the status, and also any changes that have taken place over the last couple of years. So that's going to be our focus today, is just kind of give you an overview of the project and then kind of go over the results from the last public meeting and also any changes that have taken place since then. Before that, I'm just going to give you guys a quick overview on the project. Antoine Drive is a full roadway reconstruction project. It's a high-profile project. It's over 5 miles long, and the estimated budget is $137 million. So it's a pretty significant project. The project spans from US 290 on the south side all the way up to Westmount Houston. And the project manager for the city is Roadway Ayub, and she's also available on the call today. Some of the benefits of the project is it's going to improve north and south mobility. It's also going to alleviate congestion. And also this project is going to be a big catalyst for economic development in the area. If we go to the next slide, please, Ryan. So in terms of the project needs, Antoine Drive project has been part of the city's capital improvement plan for a long time. And when you evaluate existing conditions, you'll notice that the project has many needs. The roadway has deteriorated over time and has settled in some areas. There's cracks and potholes, so it needs to be replaced. In addition to that, if you look at the sidewalk conditions, they're inadequate, they don't meet current criteria, and also over time, the different sidewalk panels have settled and also need to be replaced because it makes it hard for people to traverse the sidewalks. In addition to that, the existing storm sewer needs to be replaced and upgraded to meet current drainage Atlas 14 requirements. And also the water and sanitary sewer have exceeded their useful service life and also need to be replaced. Next slide, please. So what are the project objectives? We want to reconstruct the corridor with new roadway and drainage infrastructure. We also want to be able to improve mobility and safety consistent with the mayor's guiding mobility principles. And I'll talk about the guiding mobility principles later in the presentation. In addition to that, we also want to improve public utilities, the stormwater, bring it up to current standards, and also replace the water and wastewater utilities in addition to that, to match the life of the roadway so that we don't have to be upgrading them as we go. Next slide, please. So here's just the summary of the full scope of the project. Full roadway reconstruction. We want to improve the sidewalk conditions and promote a pedestrian-friendly corridor. We also want to be able to upgrade the intersection to make it safer for all modes of transportation. And then there are a number of traffic signals along the corridor. So our goal is to replace these traffic signals with new traffic signals that are compliant with new city requirements. And then also we want to make sure that we have adequate street lighting along the corridor to make motorists more visible for pedestrians and to also make pedestrians more visible for motorists. And there are also 4 proposed bridges along the corridor. And then again, I mentioned this earlier, we want to make sure that we improve the drainage conditions to meet the post-Harvey requirements of Atlas 14 and reduce overland flow into the neighborhoods and flooding in general. And then the last one is replace the wastewater and water lines as required. Next slide, please. So here is the project. You can see we kind of broke it up into 2 segments. So on the right-hand side, first let me just get everybody's bearing straight. So north is to the right, the solid line on the left, that's US 290, and then the green line is Antoine Drive. and you can see it spans over Council District C with the council member Kamen, and then it goes into Council District A with Council member Peck, and then it continues up north. Once you get past West Gulf Bank, just north of that, it goes into Harris County's jurisdiction. And currently we have the project broken up into two segments. Segment 1, which is ahead of Segment 2. Segment 1 is also more streamlined, not as complex as Segment 2. It doesn't have any bridges, it doesn't have any crossings. So that was one of the reasons why we broke it up, so that we can advance Segment 1 quicker than Segment 2. And you can see along in Segment 2, there are 4 bridges, 3 over channels and 1 over railroad crossing. If we go to the next slide, Ryan. Thank you. In terms of the existing conditions, I just want to remind everybody, this is the typical section that you have. We have really, two different typical sections because of the right-of-way. So there are stretches where we have 100-foot right-of-way, 100 feet right-of-way, and there are other stretches where we have 150-foot right-of-way. But for the most part, we have the same typical section. You have 4 lanes in each direction. It just depends on the median. In some cases, you have a 30-foot median. In other places, you have wider medians up to 70 feet. We also have really narrow bike lanes in some stretches, around 3 feet, which is very unsafe, and 4 feet in other sections. And then you can see the sidewalks. They're about 4 feet wide, which is also inadequate. It doesn't meet current criteria. And then we have a very small buffer there between traffic and the sidewalks. So those are the existing conditions right now in terms of the typical section. Next, please. If you recall, when we met back in October 2022, we had a poll where we reached out to the constituents and wanted to get their opinion on whether we should be widening the project to 6 lanes or keeping it as 4 lanes. So these are the results of the poll. So we had 174 participants, and almost 92% of them preferred 4 lanes section over the 6-lane section from US 290 to Tidwell. So an overwhelming majority preferred the 4-lane section. So if we go to the next slide, the Public Works heard you loud and clear, and the city heard you loud and clear. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to share the results with you and let you know what do we plan to do with the roadway section. Now, I mentioned the mayor's guiding mobility principles earlier. This is something that the new administration has implemented, and this involves maintaining general purpose lane width and number, and also it recommends providing safe sidewalks and pedestrian crossings. And then the last one is to ensure that we have reliable service for emergency responders. So all of these 3 goals or initiatives are part of our project. The new administration also wanted us to confirm that the 4 lanes are adequate. So they recommended collecting additional data. So in 2024, we collected more recent traffic counts just to make sure that the decisions that we're making are all data driven for this project. So we conducted the analysis and determined that the counts that were received in 2024 have demonstrated that 4 lanes are adequate and there is no need to widen to 6 lane. So I repeat, the project will remain 4 lanes and there will be no widening beyond that. Okay, and by doing that, we are also meeting the mayor's guiding mobility principles of maintaining the 4-lane configuration and also providing safe sidewalks and pedestrian crossings and ensuring safe, reliable services for emergency responders. So the final recommendation is to go with 4 lanes, and both the city and TxDOT have concurred with this recommendation. So we wanted to make sure that we share that with you and let you know that the city has heard you loud and clear on that. If we go to the next slide, we wanted to talk a little bit about the shared use path. So again, as mentioned for this project, the administration wanted us to also conduct or collect bicycle counts more recent bicycle counts. So we did that in late 2024, and the bike counts that were received were lower within the city of Houston limits. It was determined that these counts do not justify the need for a shared use path. So for that reason, the final recommendation for the typical section from US 290 to northwest, just north of West Gulf Bank, is to go with 6-foot sidewalks on each side. So if you go to the next slide, Ryan, I wanted to share with you what the typical section is going to look like. So this is what we're going to have. We're going to have a 16-foot median in the middle to accommodate trees, and we're going to have 4 lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction, that are 12 feet wide. And then we're going to have a 6-foot buffer area between the 6-foot sidewalk and the travelway. The buffer area creates a buffer, a safety buffer for pedestrians. It gives them that comfort and creates a little bit of space between them and the motorists so that they feel more comfortable and so that it's safer for them to traverse the corridor. And then we're also going to have a 6-foot buffer from the sidewalk to the right-of-way line. Within that area, we're going to be relocating the overhead utility poles to the outside near the right-of-way line. The objective there is to get the overhead utility poles out of the tree line so that the trees can grow and flourish and not be impacted by the overhead lines where we would have, the private utility companies coming out there trimming the trees to avoid from them reaching the utility poles. So we want to make sure we don't run into that. So that's why the poles have been shifted out. So this is what we have. This is the final typical section that will be implemented for the city limits from US 290 to just north of West Gulf Bank. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to touch a little bit on drainage as well. So as mentioned, we want to upgrade the system to be able to meet current criteria. So the 2-year City of Houston criteria, where the water is being held in the storm sewer under the gutter line, is being achieved here. In terms of the 100-year criteria, which is the larger storm events, we're able to meet that for the majority of the corridor. There are some stretches near the channels that's in the floodplain where we can't meet that. So those are the only stretches that we can't meet. And for the bridges, we're matching the profile that's out there right now. And what we're trying to do is have oversized storm sewer trunk lines along the corridor for mitigation purposes so that we minimize flooding in the area. There are also 3 channel crossings, one along White Oak Bayou, Cold Creek, and Brick House Gully. Those 3 crossings are part of Harris County Flood Control District's jurisdiction. So we are working with them to obtain approval of the improvements within those channels. Next, please. And I also mentioned this earlier that we're going to be upgrading the water and wastewater, all the public utilities along the project. So that's over 14,500 linear feet of 4-inch to 20-inch water line, and then also over 17,000 linear feet of 8-inch to 42-inch sanitary sewer improvements as well. So those will also be done as part of the project. Next, please. So in terms of bridges, I mentioned the 3 channels that we're going to be replacing the bridge there to make them wider, to be able to accommodate the new typical section, and also be able to accommodate pedestrian movement through the bridges. Right now, it's inadequate, they're narrow, so that will be fixed. In addition to that, we're also going to build a grade separation over the railroad right-of-way, BNSF's right-of-way. This is a rendering that we had developed just to kind of show you and give you an idea of what that's going to look like. So we're looking to build that directly over BNSF's railroad. We're also looking to build a pedestrian bridge over the railroad to help with students and parents when they take their kids to the schools in the area. They'll be able to use that to to get around if there are trains, and it'll also provide safety for the pedestrians that traverse the corridor. Next, please. In terms of the traffic signals, there are a total of 12 existing traffic signals along the corridor. There's also a hybrid beacon at White Oak Bayou, and then there are also railroad warning signals at BNSF. So we're going to be rebuilding 11 new signals. This traffic signal at US 290, we do not plan to touch because the project starts just north of that. So we would be replacing 11 signals that would meet current city requirements. There are also 3 hybrid beacons, one that we are replacing at White Oak Bayou, and then we're also going to be proposing 2 additional ones, one at Eagle Drive, and the other one at Arncliffe Drive. And all this will be part of the project. Next, please. And then also at the intersections, we're going to be working with the Near Northwest Management District to upgrade 9 intersections to include stamped concrete. And similar to what you see here, there's an example of some of that stamped concrete that we plan to implement within the crosswalks, just to give the intersection a different look, enhance the quality of life, and also make it more aesthetically pleasing for the motorists that traverse the area and the pedestrians that will be using the intersections. Next, please. So in terms of next steps, we wanted to share with you the schedule. So as mentioned, segment 1 is not as complicated, not as difficult as segment 2. So our goal is to advance that a lot quicker. That section is from Victory Drive to West Mount Houston. So design phase will go through spring of 2026. During that process, we're going to be getting HEAC tip approval on the scope and funding. And then we plan to start construction in summer of 2026. And we're estimating that construction will last probably through summer of 2029. Now for segment 2, it's a lot more complicated, and it's also not as advanced as segment 1. So this will take a little longer, and that stretches from US 290 to Victory Drive. So design phase will last through fall of 2027 due to the bridges and also coordination with the railroad company. Those are going to take some time to do. So that one is going to be a little behind. And we're also trying to stagger the projects a little bit so that they're not overlapping each other. And we're predicting or projecting that construction will start in winter of 2028, and it'll last longer. It'll be about a 5-year project. So it'll be completed around winter of 2033. And obviously these timelines are also subject to change as we go. And next slide, please. All right, I'll hand it back to Ryan.
Thank you, Mohammed. Moving along, let's discuss who to contact. For questions, please call 311 and/or visit houstontx.gov/311 and provide a project name. You can also email your questions and/or comments to engage@houstontx.gov. Okay, up next is our question and answer segment for this community meeting, highlighting US 290 to West Mount Houston, the Antoine project. It's your opportunity to get your questions answered in real time by our project team. First, select the Q&A on the upper right-hand side of the screen. It's the bubble with the question mark. Type in your question in the compose box and select send. If you want to ask your question anonymously, select anonymously. If the answer requires additional research, please include your email so we can respond to you with an answer. With that being said, I am opening up the Q&A session now. All right. So our first question we have from Jake D. The proposed design does not include shared use paths or a bike lane. So it's kind of a question. The proposed design does not include shared use paths or a bike lane.
I think it's more of a comment or a statement than a
Yes.
question, right?
So there's a question mark. This is Tanu, sorry. There's a question mark after that. So yes, it does not include a shared use path or a bike lane.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Will there be a pedestrian crossing at Scarborough High School? The next question.
Sure. So there's going to be several crossings, and so we have there's going to be pavement markings and warning sign crosswalks at 4 different locations. There are 4 existing crossings right now. One at Saxon, one at Hewitt, one at Creekmont Drive, and at Living Word Christian Academy. So we're going to keep these. We're just going to replace them with new pavement markings and warning signs. But in addition to those 4, we're going to add 2 more. One at Windsor Forest Drive, and then one at Maywood Forest Drive. Those are just the pavement markings and warning sign crosswalks. We're also adding 3 pedestrian hybrid beacons, one at White Oak Bayou, where we're replacing what's out there, and then we're adding 2 new hawk signals, one at Eagle Drive, and the other one is at Arncliffe Drive.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see. All right, looks like we have a question about, okay. Can you elaborate on how this project will impact driveway accesses, mailboxes, driveways, and front yards?
So during construction, we would coordinate with the contractor to ensure that driveway access will be maintained for residents. And what we're planning to do is include either higherly strength concrete or fast track concrete. And those type of concrete typically cures a lot faster than regular concrete, and you can drive on it within 24 hours to 48 hours. So we would recommend, strategies like that so that we can open up the driveway or the cross streets a lot quicker than usual, so that we minimize disruption as much as possible to the community. So those are some of the things that we'll be implementing.
Thank you. All right. All right, so we've got another question about the shared use path. So I think we've already answered the shared use path questions. So let's get some questions about something else. I've seen a few of those shared use path questions, and we've already answered those a few times. So, all right.
Ryan, while you're looking, someone's asking, Mohammed, if you can state the location of the 4 bridges again, please. Thank you.
Sure, and you can go back in the slide if you like, but they are at White Oak Bayou and Cold Creek and Brick House Gully. Those are the 3 channel crossings. And then the other bridge is just over the railroad BNSF right away. So there's 4 of them.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have another question. Is there any data to support that drivers in Houston routinely stop for pedestrians at warning signs and pavement markings? I'm not sure if y'all can answer that one. I'll repeat, or you got it.
Yeah, so there's there are different requirements in the infrastructure design manual when we look at crossings. So typically our traffic consultant has to collect data such as pedestrians crossing, the proximity of an additional signal, the speed of motorists, things like that, and then based off of that they determine what type of treatment we would need at these crossings. So if there are a large number of pedestrians using this crossing, like for instance White Oak Bayou, there's a trail there, then we would need some kind of a protected crossing there. So that's when we would go with a pedestrian hybrid beacon. But if there's not a lot of numbers that support that, then we would go with pavement markings and warning signs. These are all kind of laid out in the infrastructure design manual for the traffic consultant to look at and evaluate, and that's how we come up with our recommendations. It's really based off of the data, so we try to make it as data driven as possible.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next question. Will mailboxes be reconstructed as they were prior to the expansion? How many feet will this project encroach upon one's front yards?
So we're not encroaching into anybody's front yard. All the work is being done within cities right away, within that 100-foot stretch of right away that I showed, or the 150-foot. So we don't plan to encroach on anybody's right away. And especially with us going over the 4-lane section, there's no need to do that. So in terms of the mailboxes, I don't know if there's somebody from the city that can comment on that, but I assume that we'll place it back where it was.
Yes, I can comment on that. For the mailbox during the construction, I think this question is regarding during the construction. So the mailbox, if it's in the right of way, it's in the way of the construction, the contractor will temporarily, takes it out and put it somewhere owner would like. And after everything done, they'll put that back. And during that time, when your mailbox is put away, a contractor usually have their own means to provide the mail. They sometimes can set up some temporary mailbox altogether by the different section. So there are ways we'll work with a contractor to make sure you get the mail. One thing is, if you have a customized mailbox, then that could be a little bit different story. We're replacing the standard mailbox for the customized. The contract will ask you to kind of take that, move that somewhere out of the construction. If you don't, the contractor will do that for you. But it's not going to be contractor's responsibility or the city's to put that back. Well, we can put back the standard mailbox, but not the customized mailbox.
Thank you, Sherry. All right. We have another question about the integrity of the structure. What measures are going to be made to increase the structural integrity of the foundation of Antoine to mitigate ways for it to get into a very bumpy condition as it is right now?
So we're going to be building, brand new pavement with subgrade under it. The goal of this project is that it would last for the next 40, 50, 60 years. So it's going to be brand new concrete pavement along the entire corridor. And it's going to have, the latest and greatest, it's going to meet the latest and greatest standards.
Thank you. All right. What more can be done to force traffic to yield? I see seniors struggle to cross the street near Tidwell all the time.
Can you repeat that again, Ryan?
They're asking about traffic yield. So what more can be done to force the traffic to yield? I think you might have touched on this question kind of similar earlier. But basically, they're asking what more can be done to force traffic to yield, as they've seen seniors struggle to cross the street near Tidwell.
So, I mean, all the intersections are going to be rebuilt to meet current criteria. There's going to be, push buttons for pedestrians to cross. They're going to be audible push buttons. We're going to have high visibility crosswalks at locations where there are a large number of pedestrians that cross. We're going to have ADA compliant ramps where we have truncated domes for pedestrians when they enter the intersection. And we're trying to make it as safe as possible, utilizing all the tools that we can to make it where pedestrians have adequate time to be able to cross and get across the entire intersection. And there's also a median there so that if they didn't get through the entire intersection, there's a pedestrian refuge area for them to wait. So we're looking at all the ways that we can make it as safe as possible for pedestrians when they approach the intersection and when they cross.
Thank you. All right, next question. Are trees in the right-of-way, including someone's front yard, being removed or preserved? Or either?
So if the trees are within private property, then we're not touching it. Our goal is to preserve as many trees as we can. We have a tree protection plan included, and we have an arborist on the team to help with the work, so that we make sure that whatever we build minimizes impacts to the trees out there. Now, some trees will get impacted as part of the work because we're going to a different typical section from what's out there right now. But our objective is to save as many trees as we can, and we're not impacting any trees outside the right-of-way.
Yeah, also, I would like to add, if there's any tree has to be removed, protected tree has to be removed, we're gonna mitigate, we're gonna replant some trees with same caliber. It's smaller, but the total number, the caliber will match the tree that we have to remove.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. So would the existing bike lanes be maintained, or are they being taken out?
They will be taken out. I showed the final typical section earlier. It has 4 lanes of traffic and 6-foot sidewalks. And that would be the final configuration.
Thank you. Right. All right, let's see, what's next? Next questions. We got a ton of questions coming in, so we appreciate the participation tonight. All right. Next question. How large is the buffer between the road and the sidewalk, and what is the buffer made out of?
So it's a 6-foot buffer. And Ryan, if you can go up if you want to the typical section, but it's a 6-foot buffer, and it's just grass that's going to have trees as well. These trees are, going to be street trees that are going to be at spaced at 30 feet. So thank you. That's it right there. So this is what it looks like. So you have a 6-foot buffer, and there are going to be new trees there. These trees will be spaced every 30 feet on center, and it just creates that space, the room. It makes it safer, and it makes the pedestrians more comfortable to traverse the corridor when they walk. So the minimum requirement is 4, and we're actually going with 6 feet.
Got you. All right, we have a railroad crossing question. In regards to the railroad bridge, is it going to dump at a stoplight at Tidwell? If so, I highly recommended extending over the Tidwell intersection as it's constantly backing up during peak traffic periods. Any information on that railroad crossing?
Yeah, so basically the way the grade separation over the railroad works is once we get past Tidwell, thank you, right there.
Well,
Go back up. Right there, that's it right there. So it's really going up over railroad. We're using, you know, the minimum grades the maximum grades that we can use for the bridge to go up over the railroad and then come back down. And yes, we will be coming down before Tidwell, and we're making sure that there's adequate distance for us to go up and down and still have enough sight distance. And there's also going to be some warning signs there, just making motorists more alert that there's a traffic signal coming up. So all that will be done as part of the design. Taking it over Tidwell is going to greatly increase the project cost. It's also going to require significant right-of-way acquisition, and it will really complicate things. So we did look at that at a high level, and we didn't recommend going with that option because it will greatly complicate things.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is a unique question I haven't seen yet. Have fault lines been taken into consideration? There have been panel replacements done on Luann Street and neighboring streets. Some have been replaced again, and subsidence also occurs. Fault lines may have been the culprit. Do you know anything about fault lines in the area?
I don't recall any fault lines along Antoine. However, we will make a note of that and make sure that we address it during design. We've done that in the past on other projects where we've addressed fault lines. So if there is one crossing Antoine, we will make sure that we address that location and minimize any subsidence in that area.
All right, I have a variance request question. What is the status of variance requests for Esplanade openings from Victory to West Gulf Bank?
So that is something that we have submitted to Public Works, and I believe it got approved. Sherry, I think it got approved. Is that correct? I believe we did meet with Multimodal and discuss that, and we've submitted and got it approved.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Rowena, do you know the status of
I
the
believe
variance?
it did get approved. Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Wow, this has been a great question and answer segment. Let me see. I'm just going back through some of these questions to see if I make sure that we covered everything. Ready?
Someone's asking, is there a graphic for the proposed right-of-way section? If you want to go back to that slide and maybe go over it one more time. The 150, is it 150? This is the 100. I don't think there's 150 feet, but they refer to it. Is that a section that we're proposing?
There was we showed that in the existing conditions.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. So for the proposed condition for the 150-foot right of way, it'll match what you have here. The only difference would be the median would be wider. but it will still have a 6-foot buffer, 6-foot sidewalks, and then another buffer area between the right-of-way and the sidewalk.
Thank you, Mohammed. All right, let's see. I have several questions in regards to the bike count. So I guess people in the comments are asking about, or in the question and answer are asking about the bike count, and was it a low number? Could you guys elaborate?
Let me take that. This is Tanu. The bike counts were not done by this project team necessarily. It was done by transportation and drainage operations. We don't have the exact counts handy right now, but we can respond to those questions at a later time when we have the data. But basically, the counts were low. We can signify that the counts have been low in some of the segments. It was really low.
Thank you. Right. Let's see. I want to make sure that we get to all of the questions. Yay. Thank you all for participating tonight. It's been a great question and answer segment. All right. All right, we have a question about the 12-foot lanes. Can we elaborate on why 12 feet for the drive lanes? And what was the pre-existing condition, or what is the pre-existing condition?
So this project has federal funds and has to follow some of the TxDOT guidelines and requirements. So typically when you do a major thoroughfare project, the minimum lane width is 12 feet. So that's what we have, that 12 feet in there to match that. And it's also something that that's part of the mayor's guiding mobility principles to ensure reliable service for emergency responders. So by having the wider lane, it'll make it easier for emergency responders to get what they need to go without any delays.
Thank you, Mohammed. All right, let's see. Are there any more questions? I think we've covered most of them tonight. When we have,
We might have a few questions in the chat area if you want to check.
all right, let's take a look. Okay, here we go. We got a few more questions. All right, we have a speeding question. What street designs elements are included that helps increase safety and reduce speeding?
So, I mean, this is a major thoroughfare project, and that has traffic signals throughout the corridor. So in terms of, including any type of treatments and intersections to slow down traffic, that's typically more suited for local residential type streets. It's not suited for major thoroughfares. Typically it's about the spacing of the traffic signals and where how to make the intersections safe as possible for pedestrians to cross. That's kind of what we focus on as part of this design. As I mentioned, when it comes to slowing down traffic, that's really kind of more for residential, local, and even potentially collectors, but not for major thoroughfares.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, I saw that question. Let's see. Had a couple of questions about the White Oak Trail. They talk about a closure. Were there some type of closure, and will it be reopened?
So that's, I guess, a flood control maintained trail. So I don't know if there was a closure or not. I don't know if there's anybody from Public Works that knows.
I can find out about that.
Right. Okay, and I've seen a lot of questions about pedestrian safety. I know we covered that with the buffer and the 6-foot sidewalks and the traffic crossings, which are very safe, which will add safety. Let's see. Just want to make sure I don't. Right. Once again, thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for participating, because this has been one of our best question and answer segments for any meeting that I've moderated myself. So just check the chat once again. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating tonight in this wonderful question and answer segment of this particular project. Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to express our gratitude to some incredible individuals and teams who've made it possible. Huge thanks to District A and Councilmember Amy Peck, as well as District C and Councilmember Abby Kamen for their unwavering support. A special thank you goes out to our project team and all the stakeholders in and along the project area. Let's also give a big shout out to our fantastic public engagement team for pulling off this seamless meeting. And last but certainly not least, to each and every one of you who've joined us today and participated. Thank you for lending us your time and attention. Your presence here is invaluable. Also, this meeting recording will be available on the Houston Public Works YouTube page in the next few days, so be on the lookout. Now, here's a little request from us. Please spread the word. Share what you've learned today about this exciting project with your friends and neighbors. If you have questions, email us at engage@houstontx.gov to keep the conversation going. We look forward to seeing you in the future, ahead of the start of the construction of this project. Until then, have a great night and thank you for joining us.